The aim of this short film was to create a character who was both engaging and fascinating. Batty and Waldebeck say that the strongest protagonists fulfill five criteria. The first three are that they have the biggest problem, have the furthest to go in order to resolve their problem, and undergo the biggest change. While these 3 points mainly apply to feature-length films, they can also apply to short films. In my own short film, brothers Dan, 18, and Joe, who's 13, each have their own problem. The younger brother, Joe, has just lost a tennis match and is upset and disappointed. His problem is that he wants to feel better about himself, so in an attempt to be physically more like his older brother, he steals his jumper. Dan's problem is that he wants to get his jumper back from Joe without further upsetting him. Batty and Waldbeck's fourth requirement for an engaging character is that the audience feels empathy or sympathy for them. I agree with this because if people feel for the characters, they are urged to watch on and see what happens to them. I experimented with this in my film by changing the script so the audience felt sympathy for the younger brother. Originally, the siblings were going to be closer in age. However, I felt it would be easier for the audience to connect with the character and feel sympathy for him if he was younger. Therefore, I recast the boys to be no older than 13. The younger brother, Joe, looks disappointed and vulnerable when he is looking at himself in the mirror at the beginning. The sympathy is further enhanced when it is revealed he has lost his tennis match. Batty and Waldebeck's final criterion for a strong protagonist is that they take action. The character cannot be engaging if they do not confront the problem. Without confrontation, there is no story. My character Dan confronts the problem of getting his jumper back without being too harsh to his brother. The book Terrorism, Media and Liberation further backs this up on page 109. The theory in engaging characters supplements such responses with central or empathetic responses in which we do not imagine events from the inside of a particular character. This means, to be classed as an engaging character, the viewers must be able to imagine themselves in the position of the character. After writing a first draft for the script, one problem became apparent. Why doesn't the older brother just ask for his jumper back? I needed to develop the reason for Joe taking the jumper in the first place. On a website called Author Magazine, it states, once you really know your character, you can use that knowledge to intensify the conflict in your story. This links into the original point at the start of my commentary, that an engaging character has to have the biggest conflict. As a result, I began planning a backstory for both characters. I produced a list of characteristics for the characters, their likes and dislikes, and picked one. This finally gave me the idea that Joe is lost and wants to be like the almost perfect brother, his older brother. Good dialogue helps generate an engaging character. There are different ways of producing this. Firstly, it can be engaging for the audience if they don't immediately know everything. Using a technique used in class, I ask myself, what is the latest point the audience can enter the film? In my film, the audience doesn't need to know. In my film, the audience doesn't need to see the character lose the match or even steal the jumper. The complex purpose of dialogue is to show rather than to tell. And this is said on PegasusBooks.net, writing engaging dialogue. As soon as Dan bursts in through the door, it's obvious what has happened. It's easier to find the character more engaging if the dialogue is not really obvious. The younger brother is wearing a tennis t-shirt. It makes the audience work out what sports match he has lost and gives the opportunity for the character to move on the story, to move the story onwards rather than fill in the backstory. When Dan begins to talk about the Man United Arsenal match, on the surface it appears he's just speaking about the match. However, really he is being intimidating and is trying to reclaim what is his, the jumper. This makes him an engaging character because it makes him different but intriguing and therefore interesting to the audience.